Hi, and welcome to the Squeaky Wheel Farm. I'm Christine, and there's an awful lot of crazy stuff going on in the world right now. Now, I live in the U.S., and not so much right in my location, but the people of my country have had trouble with hurricanes and flooding and terrible storms, and now even fires out in California. And while I certainly do feel bad for those people, it sure does give you a feeling of instability, of what's next. And it feels like things are just spiraling out of control. I hear lately there's an awful lot of people saying the government just isn't doing enough. And while I feel bad for those people that have had catastrophic losses, and I can honestly say a garden is not going to make a difference in those people's lives. But this is what it does for me. Gardening gives me a sense of security. It gives me a sense of having some control over the craziness in this world, and it makes me feel good. Now, I'm not really a prepper. I'm not one of those people that's putting away stuff for doomsday. I don't plan for every little incident, but I do try to supplement our income and try to supplement what we eat with what we grow. And we're very fortunate that we live on a farm, and I'm able to grow our own cattle for beef, and we have our own chickens for meat and for eggs, and I do a huge garden in the summertime. And I usually try to plant things that I know that we are going to either eat or preserve or process somehow into another product so that it's all useful. There are a few things that I do plant, such as flowers and stuff, which are just because I want to have some beauty in my life and it makes me feel good. Sunflowers, even though they're beautiful, they're dual purpose because I feed the chickens the sunflowers in the wintertime once the flowers have dried up. Now, I had a conversation with my youngest son just yesterday, and he doesn't live here on the farm anymore. He purchased his own home a few years ago, and it was a fixer-upper, so he's been pretty busy with the inside of his home. But I told him, this is the year that you need to start planting your own garden. Last year I had gone over to his house and put a few tomato plants and zucchini and onions and peppers in one of his already made up flower beds. And I just kind of put them in there, and nobody even knew that they were there unless you knew to look for them. But through the summer they were able to pluck a few zucchinis and a few tomatoes and have an onion here and there. Not a whole lot, but just enough to be able to say, wow, that was free. It didn't cost me a thing. It didn't really take a whole lot of energy. And this is really cool to have this, especially when you've got friends coming over for a cookout and you've got some fresh lettuce, tomatoes, and onions that you can throw on your table that, first of all, you didn't have to purchase, and second of all, you can say, yeah, I grew that. So our conversation steered towards him trying to get, some ideas as far as what they eat and, what they can plant and how we're going to do it, because he's on some really heavy clay soils. So we're going to have to do some modification. But here's the important thing about why I want him to start a garden. And that is because the time to learn is right now. The time to learn is when you've got somebody that can teach you, somebody that can be there with you to guide you. Now, I didn't have that years ago when I first learned to garden, and there was a lot of years where it was a total failure. And I wasted a lot of money. I mean, not a fortune because we didn't have a fortune back then, but, a lot of time, a lot of effort that would have been better placed towards other things had I known how to do it. Well, fast forward several decades, and I've got a good handle on it now. I've got a good idea as far as how things grow and what to do, and when I run into problems, I know where to look or how to figure out, how to change things. Now, one other thing I wanted to say is I didn't enjoy gardening when I first did it. I tried, and there was several years where I was just a complete failure at it. And it took me a long time to be able to figure out what I had to do because I had no one to show me. I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have, a mentor that could tell me, oh, this is why This is why you've got so many weeds in your garden, because you're not mulching. This is why your plants aren't growing, because they need more nitrogen, or you're not watering enough. This is why that you're having failures, because I didn't set up systems in the past. I was under the belief that I had to have, this big expensive tiller to till the garden to be able to kill all the weeds, or that, some people were using chemicals to kill all the weeds, and I didn't want to do that. And the tiller, we did spend money for a tiller way back when, and I think that I've used it maybe 3 times in the last probably 15 years. And not even sure if it works anymore. It's something that I probably should give to someone else, because it's not something that I plan on using again. We do a no-till system in our garden, and for the most part, as long as I continue to mulch, my soils have been light and fluffy and moist and a good environment for my plants. So I've learned a lot, but mulching is one of the most important things. And you know what? If you live in one of those places where you don't have access to a bale of straw or some wood chips, maybe a couple handfuls of leaves, or maybe some food scraps with paper or newspaper, and just what you would normally throw in a compost pile might actually be what your plants need. So there are a lot of different kinds of mulch that you can put down, different things that you can use that are going to help your plants. So, look to that. I recall using newspaper one year just to lay it down and be able to have something that blocked the weeds, and that helped so much. Now, there are their own problems as far as the wind would rip it up, and I had to have rocks all over the place to hold it down. But newspaper worked because that's all I had at the time. But I want to encourage you that give it some thought. Think about what you have, what are your resources, and what can you do. I think that you're going to really enjoy gardening once you learn how it works and learn to be successful. It gives you such a sense of pride when you're able to give away a zucchini, even though your neighbors don't want zucchini. But or a tomato or an onion, or just surprise somebody with something that that they really enjoy. Because the food that I get out of my garden is so much better than anything that you get in a grocery store. The tomatoes are not even comparable. The melons, I can recall going to the store and buying a watermelon for the kids and getting home and it wasn't ripe, or it tasted kind of off. And there was a lot of money that I spent, and there was no backup plan. So now when I'm growing melons, if I pick one and it's not quite right, I go out to the garden and I get another one. And it's no loss, it's not a big deal. I want that for you. I want you to feel secure in where you're at, and to be able to enjoy life by not worrying about food, not worrying about prices. This is one way to have control over the cost of your food. Now, as I'm talking to you about this, it is early January, and I'm sitting inside the barn, inside the tractor, because that's where it's warm enough and I'm comfortable sitting so that I can talk to you. But now is the time to plan. Now is the time to figure out what you'd like to grow and make sure that it's something that you're going to eat. If you don't eat potatoes, then don't grow potatoes. If you don't like tomatoes, then certainly don't put them in your garden. But if you give it some thought and you go over your grocery list, I'm sure that there's something on your list that you buy almost weekly that you can supplement your family with. We produce a lot of food. A lot of it I give away, and a lot of it gets fed to the animals. But that's a good feeling. It's a good feeling to have an abundance. Now, I garden not only for food and for animal feed, but I garden because it gives me a sense of peace. It is in the Bible, after all. It is one of the first chapters where God created man and woman, and he put them in the Garden of Eden. So I just want you to know that it gives you a sense of peace when you're out there in the garden and things are growing and the birds are chirping and the sun's shining on your back, and it's just a really, really good feeling. And I want that for you. I want that for all of you. I want you to be successful, and please know that Every gardener has their failures. I do as well. There's some years that things do better than others. Well, I'm sorry about the little rant today. I just wanted to try to motivate some people into thinking about gardening. It is something that gives me a lot of joy, it gives me a lot of peace, and it's my happy place. I hope you can find your happy place. If it's something that you think that you want to do, and if you're watching this, I got a good feeling that this is probably something that you should try. Maybe you've got something inside your heart that's telling you that you want to try. So give it a go. Seeds don't cost much. You can prepare a couple of pots or buckets or a little patch of soil. It doesn't have to be big, but give it a shot and see if there's something that you can't grow. I want to thank you for hanging out with me today. I really enjoy spending time with you. I enjoy making these videos for you. I feel like I am contributing somehow to people's growth, people's knowledge, and if nothing else, maybe just giving you a little bit of encouragement, a little bit of hope that things are going to be better, and you just have only to wait for the sun to shine again. Well, that's all I have for you today. Thanks for watching. Oh, and one more thing. I hope to see you again soon.